Hi, I'm Tim Cowley, and I'm going to show you the various mice that I have had to use and modify in order to play World of Warcraft with severe RSI. Here we have the first mouse, the Logitech Trackman wheel. This is a really cheap device, and it's really worth it. I've gone through two in the last 5 years, so they really last. The Logitech lets you do movement with your thumb, which saves your wrists from having to crank back and forth and destroy the cartilage in it and end your career. Pretty good, but the buttons themselves still require a lot of tension through these tendons, which will fuck up your career. Next up is a USB joystick. This is my favorite USB joystick because it's the one that I had as a kid, but modified to be able to function on any computer. With a program like Auto Hotkey, you can take all of the inputs of any USB joystick that you hook up and map them to any key or mouse inputs. So with this stick, I can map it to WADS style input and run out of that. Problem with this is that you do have to move it back and forth quite a bit, which puts a bit of stress on your tendons and then messes you up. Also, WoW is really hard to play with only 2 keys. So the next step is to get a joystick with much more buttons. This one's pretty cool, and I've used this a bunch right now. This is just a Logitech joystick, and it costs 20 bucks. I mapped one stick to WADS control to move around, and the other stick to strafe back and forth. I've got a whole bunch of buttons, so I'm able to play my Warlock quite easily with this. So that's pretty good, but it's not quite perfect if you are severely injured. It's not quite zero force because you're still moving your thumb, and you gotta hold the grip onto the thing all the time, which, if your wrists are really messed up, you can't do. The ultimate in zero contact, zero force, wrist-free pointing is a head tracker. These are really expensive. They cost hundreds of dollars. This is the cheapest one. It's made by Kinesis, a local company in Bellevue or just north of Bellevue. They make the world's best keyboards, and they make this, which is an eye tracker. It uses infrared LEDs and a camera with this shield over it that blocks everything but infrared light. It's extremely easy to set up. It's extremely easy to use. The one drawback is you have to have a little reflective thing. Now, this little shiny sticker, they give you a couple pads of them, is what he has to move in order for this thing to track it. Now, it's hard to know what to stick this to. I tried sticking it to my finger and moving that around. That hurt a lot. I tried sticking it to my elbow and putting the camera behind me. That was okay, but it made my shoulders sore. I even tried my feet. I tried putting a chopstick and holding that right off and moving it around, but I got a really sore jaw. The ultimate is to put on a headband, and then either, well, it's going to interfere with this, either put the headband around your head and then move your head back and forth, or the ideal, snap around your jaw, and then you can go like this, go up and down, and back and forth. The camera is very sensitive and can amplify small movements into very large ones, so you don't have to turn your head too far, but it does make gaming literally a pain in the neck. So, the best pointing device that I've used so far is the 3D Connection 6 Degrees of Freedom Space Navigator. This really is 6 degrees of freedom. You can move it up and down, forwards and backwards, left and right, and twist it around any one of those axes. You can see that it doesn't move very far. This is ideal. So your wrist doesn't, unlike the NES Advantage, your wrist doesn't have to move very much. You can put it in basically any position, anchored against anything, nice sticky rubber on the back, and then play. So I have this mapped to WADS control with strafing and turning. Really easy. It comes with a couple of little buttons that are vestigial but functional. The only problem with the 3D Connection is that its software support absolutely sucks balls. So there are user-made, homebrew, flaky, crashy drivers which remap these movements to a standard joystick. And then you can take that standard joystick and use Auto Hotkey or any other automation programming system to map that to WADS controls or mouse moves or whatever. Next up, buttons. So the buttons on the mouse are tough on your tendons to use. They require you to flex everything through here, which puts force through your wrist and then can mangle that. So, you saw the buttons on here are pretty easy to push, but if you don't have to use your hands, you save your fingers and your tendons. So, this is a foot pedal, also made by Kinesis. It's extremely expensive. It costs $180 and has really crappy connectors, which don't work half the time. The pedal itself takes a lot of force to push, about 10 pounds. So if you're leaning on it with your foot and you can kind of click back and forth, then it can work. But if you don't want to do a lot of force and you want to be able to push it really fast, this is not ideal. Also, it costs $180. For $25, you can do better. This is a Dell mouse, which I stole from work. Took the mouse ball out of because we're not using this for pointing. I ripped the buttons out of it and just with pliers and snips and exposed the wires that are the electrical contacts. Soldered those to a pair of $10 industrial strength foot switches. These are treadlites. Get them at any electronics supply store. They have big long cables which you can solder up to any normal mouse with a minimum of effort or skill. You'll figure out which wires go to which wires. So I use this at work. It's big and it's heavy and I can stomp on it. Oh, and they've got a nice rubberized bottom so they stay in one place, unlike the kinesis pedals. The ultimate, though, in switches is fast action and zero contact force. Now, short of going to a voice recognition system, which is notoriously hard to use and not quick enough for gaming, we can take another torn open mouse. Here we have, for test's sake, a small and simple 3-pole dual throw switch. And then here on the other mouse button, we have 2 pieces of metal fabric. I got this stuff for free, just a sample package from EMFinsulation or something.com, and wrapped it around fingers of a stretchy glove, wired that up, and now I have a way that I can push a mouse button with zero force. I just move my fingers and bring them together and they're pushed. It's tough to get really fast action on this because, well, the fabric is kind of clawed up and it's got little pointy bits and it's kind of like Velcro, so they stick, and there's no click sound. So that's not so good. And there's one last thing. This is a $30 USB keyboard that's missing most of the keyboard. It's just the number pad, but this is what I use to play. I can hold this in one hand and in any position, in any orientation, and then push the buttons. Now, WoW and Auto Hotkey are both really good about remapping just typical keyboard inputs like this, so I'm able to get everything that I need off a small number of buttons. This is really good. So this and this are what I use right now.